Welcome to IMUA's Quick Bites, a micro-learning series featuring subject matter experts in the inland marine insurance industry. I'm Eileen Monreale, Education Training Specialist for IMUA, and I'm honored to welcome Vicki Hartman, Builders Risk Underwriting Manager, Ironshore, to provide a quick bite. What is a Gantt chart and why is it important? Take it away, Vicki.
Thanks, Eileen. The quick bite topic today, as Eileen said, is what is a Gantt chart and why is it important? In this session, I'll go over the definition of a Gantt chart, the origins, who invented it, the key components, why is it important to the various groups that use a Gantt chart, including the contractor, the underwriter, the claims adjuster, the owner, and finally, I'll list some common Gantt software contractors use. Simply put, a Gantt chart is a horizontal bar chart used in project management to visually represent a project plan over time. It can be used for any type of project, but for our purposes today, it's specific to a builder's risk project. Other names you might hear instead of a Gantt chart are a timeline, a construction schedule, or a bar chart. They all refer to the same concept. So who invented the Gantt chart? Ironically, probably not the person who it's named after. In the 1890s, a Polish metallurgical engineer named Karol Adamecki developed a workflow management process using the chart he named a homonogram while in charge of a steel rolling mill in Poland. His system was used to improve plant efficiency. In the 1900s, U.S. mechanical engineer named Henry Gantt developed a project management tool which became known as a Gantt chart. Gantt developed his system also while working in steel mills. The chart was designed to quickly show whether a project was on schedule or behind. Gantt charts were used in projects such as Hoover Dam as well as the interstate highway system. So if Adamecki created the Gantt chart first, why doesn't he get credit? Well, Adamecki didn't publish his ideas until the 1930s, and it was in Polish and Russian, so exposure was limited. Gantt published his in English in 1910, and it was seen by a wider audience. Other project management systems have evolved from this, one being the program evaluation and review technique known as PERT, or critical path method, CPM. Here's an example of what a Gantt chart looks like. I've created a very simple Gantt chart in Excel for illustration purposes, construction of a 2-story multifamily building in this example. Down the left side of the chart, you'll see the tasks that are to be completed, starting off with the site work all the way through the final inspection, as well as the start and end dates of each task. Then along the top, the calendar dates are shown. In the body are shown the bars with the length of time that each task takes. And dependencies are also shown. Which tasks need to be completed before another one can start. For example, the steel structure can't be erected until the foundation is in place. There are some tasks which can be done at the same time. In my example, the windows and the doors. So why is a Gantt chart important? It depends on the group that's using it. The first is the general contractor. They're the ones who create the Gantt and control the schedule. They use the Gantt chart to determine how long the project will take. All large projects have a contract between the owner and the general contractor, and the start date and the completion date are shown in the contract. The GC also uses the Gantt to calculate how far in advance materials will need to be ordered. We know COVID caused supply chain issues, which meant longer lead times. There's nothing worse for a contractor than to have workers on the job site, but the work is at a standstill because the materials are not there for them to install. The GC also uses the schedule to coordinate subcontractors and when they need to show up to perform the work. This is based on the dependencies of what tasks need to be completed before the next one can start. For example, the foundation needs to be built before the walls can be put up, and the plumbing and electric can't be installed until the walls are framed. This chart's also used to keep the owner updated on the progress of the project. Many contracts between the general contractor and the owner have penalties built in if the project isn't completed on time. $10,000 a day, for example, and it can go much higher depending on the size of the job. There's a side effect of poor planning of a project. If you tell a subcontractor you'll be ready for their services, in our example Gantt, the roof is scheduled to start on 1/15/24. If the foundation hasn't been completed and the roofer can't start, that causes a problem. If the contractor misses the mark too many times with the GC, they may decide not to work with the GC anymore. Fewer bidders may lead to higher pricing for the subcontracted work, or the subcontractor may charge more to account for their wasted time. The bottom line is poor scheduling on the general contractor's part will cost them money. If they get behind schedule, they may add a second shift or work weekends to catch up. This is not cheap and will take away from the contractor's profit. Getting too far behind can cause further problems, and there's the temptation to take shortcuts, which can then result in losses. The next group is the underwriter. The Gantt chart confirms to the underwriter how long the project period needs to be. Underwriter can also look to see if the scope of work shown on the application matches the work shown on the Gantt. In my earlier example, there was a boat dock over the water exposure that might not be something that you as the underwriter want to cover. Might not be in the application, but it's shown on the Gantt. As a builder's risk underwriter, you should get a copy of the Gantt chart with the initial submission. If the project needs an extension, you need to get a current copy of the Gantt chart and compare it to the original to get insight into what caused the delay. For example, did the project start on time, or was there a delay in getting permits to start? Have there been losses that have pushed the project back? Were there issues getting subcontractors to show up when scheduled? Were there weather issues such as too much rain? Did they not order enough materials far enough in advance? Or was it just poor planning on the general contractor's part? The next group is the claims adjuster. In the event of a loss, the Gantt is used to determine the amount to pay for delay in completion, either loss of income or loss of rents. I can't stress enough how critical this document is because it's used to determine the expected completion date had the loss not occurred versus the date the project actually completed. Finally, we look at the importance from the owner's perspective. They need to know when the building will be completed so they can put it to its intended use. In our example, they need to know when they can start renting apartments. Typically, the general contractor will give a monthly report to the owner on the project, on the progress of the project. Any day past the expected completion date, the owner is losing money. Every day they're not collecting rent on their property. This is why the owner will typically push the general contractor to complete the project even sooner than projected. Some of the software that there's many vendors out there that provide Gantt chart software. Some of the most popular are Oracle, Primavera, Procore, Autodesk Construction Cloud, and Microsoft Project. You can also create one in Excel, like I did for our example. Well, that about wraps it up. I'll leave with two closing comments. First, on a commercial project that is a year or longer, if you as an underwriter ask for the Gantt chart and you're told they don't have one, I wouldn't believe it. If they really don't have one, this is a huge red flag. You can see from the information presented how important the Gantt chart is for all parties involved. And if there's a claim and there's no Gantt, it will be a nightmare for the adjuster trying to settle the claim. And second, the Gantt chart is a document that can change daily due to circumstances that are out of the general contractor's control. There are three main issues. The first is weather, but the contractors typically account for that by building weather days into the schedule. The second is when a subcontractor does not show up when scheduled. And third is when materials don't show up when promised, even if ordered way in advance of when they're needed. Here are some of the references you can look at to find out more about Gantt charts. Thank you for watching the presentation. I hope you learned what a Gantt chart is and why it's important, and I'll turn it back over to Arlene.
Well, thank you so much for that, Vicki. I'm really amazed at how many areas of expertise encompass the builder's risk discipline. This is just a small piece of it, but you've certainly demystified and shared the importance of the Gantt chart. If IMUA members would like to learn more about builder's risk, please check out these on-demand educational opportunities, including the learner-led Introduction to Builder's Risk e-learning, or one of the 7 on-demand webinars, including Establishing a PML with a Focus on Builder's Risk, or we have a 3-hour recording, Introduction to Builder's Risk class, which was instructed by Cody Williams. These and much more are available on demand at no cost for IMUA members. Thanks again, Vicki, for helping IMUA to advance education for the inland marine insurance professional. Until next time, I'm Eileen Monreale with IMUA Quick Bites.